So this is the sludge judge, which checks the levels inside the tank, and this is the outlet. This is all the sludge buildup on the bottom. There's a real brief, should be a clear zone, and then this is the scum on top, which isn't, there's not a lot of it if you look down in the tank. And so the problem here is these are 1 foot marks, so we've got 2.5 feet of sludge on the bottom, which means it does need to be pumped. In this tank you'd only like to see about 1 foot or less, and so this is the indicator of that. This is the second compartment, and then the first compartment's even worse. Get this to drain out now. You can see there's more solids on top in the first compartment, and that high level of sludge on the bottom is usually an indicator of little use over a long period of time, or vacancy. And it won't pull up as much with the solids on top. The other recommendation for this particular tank, these risers are great the way they've got them, but in here you can see this outlet baffle. It'd be really nice to put a screen on that so there would be a filter to prevent any solids from escaping from the tank and out into the drain field, which will eventually plug up the drain field. So that would be a recommendation for this particular tank. Otherwise, it will need a pumping, but everything looks in great shape. The baffles are in good condition. Both the inlet and the outlet one. You can see there's the same thing in here.
So when you let the water out of your bathtub or flush the toilet, can you kind of give us a trip through the pipe?
We can give the kind of a roadmap of the flush. The flush comes out, it comes into here, and that baffle acts to distribute it and to prevent it from breaking up. And so this first compartment takes up 2/3 of the tank. It's a 1,000-gallon tank, and so 2/3 of that is this first compartment where your solids will settle out. There's more scum up on top that you can see, and then there's a wall. There's a baffle in the middle, and then the second compartment is only 1/3 of the size, and it's a lot clearer. That's why we don't have the scum on top for further settling. And then it goes out through that outlet baffle where I recommended the filter. And in this particular system, it's all gravity, and so it just flows out, and it's a looped system. So there's 3 lines in a rectangle out there, and they're all looped together. The newer ones would have a distribution box. This one doesn't. The way it was designed, it just goes in with a T, and then gravity does the rest. So that's a kind of a flow report for how things work. And it's really creative how they've got the risers on here. This is fantastic. Most people would have just filled over the tank, and we wouldn't have that. So it's in really good shape. The tank's great.
Great.
That's kind of a short report.
And you said you said something about the soils.
Yeah. Out here, the soils, they look good where I'm looking at. Jimmy's got to look here and make sure that everything's all right. I dug down to where the laterals go across, and there's gravel layer, and then there should be sand underneath. So we dig up to the gravel, inspect that, look at that, and then we take the bar and go down farther, look down the hole, and check that out. So that's what we're doing right now.
Great. Thanks, guys. So I was just wanting you to get a little picture of what happens with a septic inspection. When we write an offer on a property, we almost always include a contingency that we get a chance to do a septic inspection. It's generally paid for by the seller and pumped before closing if needed. That is a condition on closing in Island County, so that at least it's inspected and says it doesn't need pumping, or if it did need pumping, that it gets pumped. So we had on-site construction come out today and do an inspection of the tanks and out at the field, and just wanted to give you an introduction to septic tanks and on-site sewage treatments and soils here today at WhibbyAwaits.com. Thanks for joining us.